intervals the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting a warm golden hue across the quiet streets of Maplewood. I stood by the window of my small, cluttered apartment, watching as the last rays of light faded away. My name is Clara Hastings, and I had always thought of myself as an ordinary woman living an ordinary life. At 32, I found solace in routine. I woke up each morning, brewed a pot of coffee, walked the same path to the little bookstore where I worked, and returned home to the worn-out couch in my living room filled with the scent of vanilla candles. However, that evening was different. The familiar serenity felt like it was about to be shattered. My heart raced, not with excitement, but with anticipation of the storm that was about to unfold. My hands moved unconsciously to the pendant around my neck, a small locket that held the only picture of my brother, Ethan. He had been gone for nearly a decade now, taken from me too soon, too violently. I still remembered the day it happened, the way the news had hit me like a freight train, and the helplessness that surged through me as I watched my world crumble. It's funny how life can feel certain and predictable one moment, and then, in the blink of an eye, everything can change. I gazed at the locket, my fingers brushing against the cold metal as waves of memories washed over me. Ethan had been my rock, my confidant, the only person who truly understood me in this world. After his death, I had lost not just a brother, but a part of my soul. The police called it an accident, a result of a reckless choice made by a drunk driver. The driver had walked away with barely a scratch while we were left to pick up the pieces. I had tried to let go, to move on like everyone suggested. But how could I move on when the person who stole my brother had managed to escape justice? Each day was a reminder of what was lost, a cataclysm that paralyzed my heart with a sense of injustice that I could no longer bear. The candles flickered on the coffee table, their soft glow reflecting the tumultuous emotions swirling inside me. I had tried to bury the nagging thoughts of revenge, but they had sprouted into a fierce determination that seemed unstoppable. As darkness enveloped the neighborhood, I could almost hear Ethan's voice echoing in my mind. "Clara, you are stronger than you think." A shiver ran down my spine. It was a warning and an encouragement all wrapped into one. A flicker of light suddenly caught my eye. I turned around just as my best friend Lily burst through the door, her presence like a gust of fresh air. Clad in her usual oversized sweater and ripped jeans, she carried an infectious smile, her curly hair bouncing as she walked in. "Clara, you will not believe what I just found out," she exclaimed, dragging me out of my thoughts. "What is it?" I asked, forcing a smile as I stepped away from the window. "You know that bar called the Whiskey Stone, the one on the edge of town?" I nodded, my interest piqued. The Whiskey Stone was an infamous place known for its rowdy patrons and cheap drinks. Lily continued, "I overheard some guys talking about this accident. Apparently, the guy who hit Ethan is back in town." My heart dropped like a stone, echoing the sudden clarity that washed over me. "What? Are you sure?" I could feel the pit in my stomach tightening, that familiar anger roiling just below the surface. As sure as I am that tuna salad sandwich I had for lunch was a horrible decision. They said he was bragging about it at the bar. Lily crossed her arms, a frown creeping onto her face. Clara, this isn't good. You cannot just go after him. That is a terrible idea. I clenched my fists tightly at my sides, grappling with the conflicting emotions that surged through my veins. I am tired of being helpless, Lily. I am tired of him walking around like he has no consequences for what he did. But this could ruin everything, she pleaded, her voice softening to a more conciliatory note. What if you got arrested? Or worse? I closed my eyes momentarily, weighing her words. Part of me knew the truth in her caution, but the ache inside me raged with a desperate need for closure, a need for revenge that thrummed like a live wire. I just want him to understand what he took from me, I whispered, my voice shaky as I opened my eyes and met her gaze. I want him to feel pain like I do. The atmosphere crackled with tension, the candle flames flickering wildly as if they sensed the charged air between us. You need to let it go, Clara. You need to heal. Heal. Such a simple word with a weighty implication, one that felt impossibly heavy at that moment. Heal. I do not think I can heal if he is walking around like nothing happened. Lily took a step closer, her eyes softening. I will do whatever it takes to help you, but I need you to promise me you will not do anything crazy. Let's figure this out together. I took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of her friendship wrap around me like a comforting blanket. But I knew a part of me could not let it go, not yet. What if we just found out more about him? I suggested, my voice wavering but laced with intensity. Who he is, where he works, what he does. Clara, Lily said with a sigh, pinching the bridge of her nose as if trying to ward off a headache. You are just digging yourself deeper. You do not want to go down this path. Maybe I do, I said, feeling that familiar anger ignite. It is about time someone made him feel a fraction of the pain he caused me. I am so tired of feeling stuck. You listen to me, Clara Hastings, she said firmly. You are not stuck. You are just processing grieving. What you are talking about is not the answer. What if it is? I replied, my heart pounding as my voice grew more intense. This is my chance to finally reclaim a part of my life, Lily. I cannot promise you I will do nothing. The air crackled with uncertainty as Lily searched my eyes. You are a good person, Clara. You have to remember that. Revenge changes you. It does not fix anything. I swallowed hard, feeling the sharp edge of her words pierce through the haze of anger blurring my judgment. I do not want to be a good person right now. I want justice. I spoke it like a spell, each syllable sharp and defined. Lily's expression fell, her determination faltering. How is this any different than the man who took Ethan? Revenge is just a cycle of pain. Tears threatened to spill from my eyes, but I fought them back. I do not know how to break it, Lily. I really do not. All I know is that I cannot let this go. He needs to know that what he did mattered. Lily stepped closer, gently placing her hand on my shoulder. Just promise me you will think about this. Take a breath before you do anything. You have so much to lose. I looked down, feeling the tears prick at my eyes. I nodded, though the storm inside me roared louder than ever. I was standing on the precipice of something dark and uncharted, and I could hear the whispers of temptation calling my name. As she called for a break and turned to leave with a heavy heart, I felt increasingly alone. The door clicked shut behind her, and suddenly my empty apartment felt colder, echoed with my own racing thoughts. I turned back to the window, gazing out into the blossoming night. The world outside was bustling. The sounds of laughter, music, and life swirled together. But within me, there was only silence filled with a cacophony of unresolved grief and simmering rage. I glanced back at the locket, a bittersweet reminder of all the joy and the crushing loss that followed. "What would you want me to do, Ethan?" I murmured under my breath, clutching the pendant like a lifeline. "Would you want me to just let him go?" The questions hung in the air, entwined in the shadows, daring me to confront the path ahead. Anger surged through me again, tinged with sorrow. I knew the time had come to put aside my doubts and indecision. This was not just about vengeance. It was about reclaiming my life. It was about making him understand the cost of his actions. And deep down, I felt that my brother's spirit was with me, guiding me. I turned from the window with new determination. There would be no letting go, no more burying my feelings, no more silence. Ignition sparked in my heart, and I finally allowed my mind to wander in the direction of the storm. A wave of chilling resolve washed over me. This time, I was ready to act. As I moved back towards my small table, cluttered with books and papers, I could hardly contain the burgeoning fire within me. The course was set, a quest that could either lead to my salvation or my damnation. It was time to unveil the name behind the accident, the legacy of grief entwined with denim and whiskey that had ultimately taken my brother from me. The winds of fate were shifting, and in the heart of the tempest, I was determined to find my brother again, even if it meant facing whatever darkness lay ahead. I reached for my phone, fueled with the pulse of uncertainty and bravery, prepared to chase the whispers of vengeance traipsing through my mind. Tonight marked the inception of my reckoning, a moment when a quiet woman resolved to become so much more a force of nature, of justice and retribution. I watched as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the small town of Maplewood into the harsh glow of twilight. My breath quickened, and I could feel a knot tightening in my stomach. I sat on the creaky steps of my front porch, feeling the old wood beneath me, every splinter and crack a reminder of what had happened. The shadows enveloped my house like a suffocating blanket, an oppressive reminder of the events that had pushed me into this desperate state of mind. I could barely remember the last time I felt at peace, and that gnawing throb in my heart whispered that peace was not an option for me anymore. Earlier that day, I had spent hours stewing over my plans, meticulously mapping out every detail of the revenge I craved against a man named Victor Matthews. Victor had wronged me in ways that left scars deeper than skin. He had taken everything from me: my trust, my sense of safety, my brother's life. I still replayed the phone call in my mind, the precise moment I heard my mother's voice tremble on the other end, shattering my world with a single sentence. "Clara, it is about Jackson." I could hear her sharp intakes of breath, her voice wavering as she recounted the awful news. "A car accident right outside of town," they said. I had been powerless, stuck in a meeting, while Jackson had been stripped away in an unfair blink of an eye. I stared at the empty street, craving answers that had never come. "I will find you, Victor," I whispered into the cool evening air, my determination sharpening with every word. The revenge I sought was not just for Jackson, but for myself, to regain the lost pieces of who I was before tragedy struck. I was no longer the girl who floated through life. I was a woman on a mission. Yes, I would confront Victor Matthews, and I would ensure he understood the pain his choices had inflicted. I forced myself to stand, the rough texture of the porch digging into my palm like a wicked reminder. I pulled my jacket closer around me, feeling its warmth envelop me, bringing a rustle of comfort in such a dark hour. My breath escaped in quick, short bursts as I descended from the creaky steps and headed toward my car, a faded silver sedan that had seen better days. I dug around in the glove compartment, searching for something. There, under the crumpled takeout menus, lay the small keepsake I had kept as a reminder of Jackson. It was a simple silver pendant shaped like a star, something he had picked out for me years ago to celebrate my first job promotion. I slipped it around my neck and let it rest against my heart. As I drove through the still streets of Maplewood, the rising moon illuminated my path, and each flickering streetlight felt like a ghost whispering of memories past. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. "You have to do this, Clara," I murmured to myself, my voice almost lost in the hum of the engine. The gravity of my plan pressed down on me, and I felt the urge to make everything perfect, to choreograph every detail of my encounter with Victor. I had thought about mapping out the risks, but I realized that my anger had already drawn the lines in the sand. With each mile that passed, I envisioned the confrontation. I imagined Victor's smirk. Oh, that arrogant smile that made him look so self-assured. My heart raced at the picture of him doubting me, underestimating the depths of my resolve. How could I make him pay for the life he had recklessly taken? I was no longer a victim. I was the hunter, and it was high time he understood the weight of his sins. I parked outside the dimly lit bar, the Broken Rook, a place Victor frequented. I had seen it buzzing with life while walking home from work over the last few weeks, watching momentarily before I would drift home into my solitude. Its wooden facade, adorned with gaudy neon signs, seemed to loom over me like a dark reminder of the evening's intentions. I gripped the car door, feeling the cold air slice against my skin, bolstering my resolve. "This is it," I whispered as I stepped out into the chilly night. The scent of stale beer wafted around me with each step toward the entrance, mingling with the sound of raucous laughter spilling from inside. The door creaked as I entered, revealing a world full of vibrant chaos, bar stools, shuffleboard, laughter, and the clinking of glasses, all buzzing with an energy that made me feel out of place. I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me, but I pushed through it. This was not my first time in a bar, but tonight felt different. My heart thudded like a drum in anticipation and fear, and I scanned the room until I spotted him in the back corner. Victor Matthews sat there like a king among his court, surrounded by friends, a drink in hand. and that infuriating smile on his face. Flashes of contempt flickered through me as I recalled his face on the news, behind bars, being taken into custody for Jackson's death. A careless mistake, they had labeled it. A few too many drinks, they said, with no thought to who he'd harmed. That judgment had done nothing but deepen my resolve. I didn't need a plan or strategy. The moment felt right, and I moved toward him with purpose, weaving through the throngs of revelers, my heart volleying between fear and vengeance. The air hummed with excitement, and I could almost taste my rage sharp on my tongue like blood. As I approached, he glanced up and met my gaze. Confusion flashed across his features like lightning, followed by recognition. "Clara Hastings," he said, that smooth baritone washing over me like an unwanted embrace. "What brings you to the Rook?" He leaned back casually, feigning nonchalance, but I saw the slight shift in his posture. I felt the weight of the pendant against my chest, a reminder of my brother's laughter. "We need to talk, Victor," I said, striving for steadiness, though my hands trembled with the need to lash out. His friends turned toward me, their laughter stuttering into silence. I sensed their curiosity as they exchanged confused glances. "Oh, about what?" He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table as though they were the anchors of his bravado. I noticed the remnants of arrogance flickering through his eyes, as if he believed he could charm himself out of this. "About Jackson," I replied, my voice gaining strength like a tidal wave. The murmurs around the table quieted further, and I could sense the collective anticipation hanging in the air. My heart thumped wildly, but I pressed on. "You know, your little accident that cost me everything." His expression shifted, the playfulness draining away as the gravity of my words sank in. The smugness vanished, replaced by a forced smile. "Look, Clara, that was an accident," I interrupted, my words cutting sharp. "Is that the line you're sticking to, an accident?" I could feel the heat rising in my chest, the anger pulsing almost painfully as I leaned closer. The space between us felt electric, charged with anger and unspoken truths. "That night, you didn't just take a life. You took my brother away from me. You don't get to sit here with your drinks and laugh as if you haven't ruined everything." His friends exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what to do. "You need to calm down," Victor said, raising his hands defensively, but I could see his voice waver. He might have been used to controlling the room, but now he was exposed. "Calm down," I spat. "You think I am the one who needs to calm down. Jackson is gone. He will never get to come back. You see, I am here for a reason, Victor. I want you to remember this moment, remember me." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "You think you are above the consequences, but I am here to show you that I will make sure you pay for what you did." He finally met my gaze, the ripple of fear I had longed to see coursing through his eyes. "What do you want from me, Clara?" he asked, the bravado replaced with uncertainty. "You really think scaring me will change anything?" "It will change everything," I said, leaning closer for emphasis. "You are going to wish you had never gotten behind the wheel that night. I am going to make your life hell, and I won't stop until you understand what losing someone feels like. I will not rest until you feel every ounce of pain you caused me." A shudder rippled through him as he swiftly rose to his feet, practically knocking over his chair. "You are going to regret this," he warned, panic glinting in his eyes. But I didn't flinch. I held my ground, letting the shadows engulf him as I stood tall and resolute. "Come and find me, Victor," I said, the glint of my pendant catching the light, a reminder of my purpose. "I am not done yet. If you think this was a warning, you are sorely mistaken. This is just the beginning." I turned on my heel, feeling the rush of release surge through me, not paying attention to anything else as I walked out the door, the noise of the bar fading behind me. I stepped outside, the cool air wrapping around me as I fought to quell the adrenaline surging through my veins. I had made my first move. The darkness had finally begun to unfurl, and with it, my revenge story had only just started. I took a deep breath as I stood outside the expansive glass building that housed Kingston Enterprises. This was it, the culmination of weeks of planning. My heart raced, but I steadied myself. The sleek exterior of the building reflected the morning sun, giving it an almost ethereal glow. Part of me felt a surge of strength, while another part nearly buckled under the sheer weight of what I was about to do. It was a perfect day, bright and clear, a stark contrast to the storm I felt raging within me. I smoothed my blouse and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear, reminding myself of the resolve that had driven me thus far. Revenge isn't just about anger, it is about regaining control. And right now, I needed to be in complete control. "Clara, are you ready?" came a voice from behind me, pulling me out of my spiraling thoughts. It was Jenna, my best friend and the only person I had confided in about my plan. She had been my rock through this entire ordeal. Clad in a crisp navy suit that contrasted beautifully with her long, wavy blonde hair, she looked polished and poised. I could see determination etched in her features, and it gave me a much-needed boost of courage. I turned to face her, trying to conjure a confident smile. "I think so," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "But what if he sees right through me? What if it all blows up in my face?" "Relax. You've got this," she said, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Remember what we talked about. You are not just walking in there to confront him, you are taking back your power. You've spent too long feeling like a victim. You deserve to get your revenge, Clara. Just channel that fire inside you." Her words held layers of truth. My former boss, Leonard Kingston, had made me feel small and worthless during the 3 years I worked for him. His constant belittling, the late-night calls demanding reports reminiscent of high school detentions, and finally, the blow that had almost shattered me. He had stolen my promotion, handing it to someone less qualified solely because he fancied her bright red lipstick. Anger had been my constant companion since that day. It had taken hold of my mind and twisted it, transforming my pain into a purpose. "Okay," I said, brightening slightly as I took a step forward, fists clenched at my sides. "Let's do this." We entered the building together, the air inside rich with the scent of coffee and polished wood. The lobby was bustling with people in suits, their chatter mixing with the soft sound of shoes clicking against the marble floor. My heart raced as we approached the receptionist, a puffy-haired woman with an unwavering gaze. I was struck by how standard everything felt in this pristine corporate environment, where ambition and greed seemed to mingle like an overpowering cologne. "I'm Clara Hastings," I said, forcing my voice to sound steady. "I have a meeting with Mr. Kingston." The receptionist peered at me, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Please have a seat. I will notify him of your arrival." "Thanks," I replied, trying to mask my unease. I felt like I was an intruder in a world that had always excluded me. As Jenna and I took a seat in the adjacent waiting area, I could feel my pulse quicken. What if he doesn't respect my presence? I hissed, my palms growing clammy. What if he just laughs at me? I know that guy. He has a tendency to think he's above everyone. But here's the thing. That ego has a weakness. He may think he's invincible, but you hold a power he doesn't expect. "Remember, you have something he wants," Jenna said, leaning closer to me. "Your words can take him down from that pedestal he's standing on." I took a moment to absorb her encouragement as I peered around the room. I observed the other employees, their faces lined with ambition, doggedly focused on their own agendas. It felt strange, almost like a theater, and I was merely an actor entering a play with one sole purpose. My fingers drummed nervously on my lap, betraying my doubts. Suddenly, the doors to the office swung open and Leonard Kingston stepped out. He looked just like I remembered, dressed to the nines in a tailored gray suit, his silver hair immaculately styled. The corners of his mouth turned up as he spotted me, but there was no warmth in his expression, just a predator sizing up its prey. "Clara, I did not expect to see you here. This must be important," he called out, as if he genuinely cared. But I could sense the sneer lurking underneath the surface. I could see the wheels turning in his head, calculating how to twist the situation to his advantage. "It is important, Leonard," I replied, fighting to keep my voice from quavering. I stood up, forcing a brave smile. "I'd like to have a few words if you have a moment, of course." "Come on into my office," he said, waving me forward as I felt Jenna's supportive presence behind me. "And who is this lovely young lady accompanying you?" "This is Jenna, my friend," I stated, my voice strong despite the flutter of nerves in my stomach. "She will be sitting in on this meeting." "Interesting. You don't usually bring backup to this sort of thing." He raised an eyebrow, his expression shifting slightly from curiosity to cautious. I could tell he was already on edge. "Well, let us have a chat then." As I followed him into his office, a hint of trepidation coursed through me. The space was as luxurious as I remembered, accented by framed awards and accolades that screamed success. It smelled faintly of his expensive cologne, a bitter reminder of my past. But I would not let it swallow me whole. I took a seat across from his polished desk, my heart thumping loudly in my ears, while Jenna settled into a chair nearby, observing everything. "So, what is it that brings you here?" Leonard prodded, drumming his fingers on the desk like a judge awaiting a verdict. "I wanted to discuss the promotion that was given to Molly," I said, my voice gaining strength. I felt like I was a strong candidate for it. Leonard's posture stiffened, his eyes narrowing. "Molly is exceptional. I believed she brought a fresh perspective to the team." "You should be happy for her," he replied, dismissing my concerns with a wave of his hand. Happy, I scoffed, clenching my fists in my lap. You might want to consider what that promotion really cost me. It was not just a job for me. It was my chance to grow, to prove my worth. And you know that. He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms with a smug grin. You know how the corporate world works. Not everyone gets what they want, Clara. You wouldn't be the first employee to lose out. You're a capable worker, but maybe you should have shown more initiative during your time here. The words struck like daggers, igniting the anger I had harbored for so long. You're right. I should have shown more initiative, I said, my voice sharp. But initiative was hard to muster when I was often belittled in front of my colleagues. You took every opportunity to remind me that I was just a cog in this machine and not the one steering it. A flicker of realization crossed his face, but he quickly masked it with arrogance. This is a competitive business. If you cannot handle it, perhaps you are not cut out for this role, he said coolly, leaning forward slightly as if ready to pounce. Oh, I can handle it just fine, I challenged, my resolve solidifying. In fact, this whole situation has made me realize my worth is not tied to a title at Kingston Enterprises. I came here to confront you, not to get into a petty argument. My goal is not just about the promotion. It is about your consistent abuse of power. His smile faltered. Abuse of power. Now that is a serious accusation. You don't think you are exaggerating just a bit. You are here to discuss a promotion, not to throw around unfounded claims, he said, almost mocking me. And you think I have forgotten all the times you belittled my contributions. I leaned forward, my voice steady and calm despite the storm inside me. This conversation is long overdue. You might have had your fun throwing people around like pawns in your little game, but I've had enough. I've come to reclaim my narrative. Leonard's expression shifted as he absorbed the weight of my words. You think this is a game, he said, narrowing his eyes. You're walking a dangerous line here, Clara. I could have any number of people whistleblower you straight out of your job. Is that supposed to scare me? I shot back, resisting the urge to squirm in my seat. You can threaten my job all you want, but we both know it won't stop me from speaking out about the way you've treated people. You've pushed me too far. Watch your tone, he warned, anger bubbling to the surface. You are making serious accusations without any proof. Maybe I do not need physical proof, Leonard, I said quietly, my voice low but firm. The reality is, I am no longer afraid of you. I have found my voice, and it doesn't need validation or approval from you or anyone else. I know I was a skilled employee. I am not just my job title. I am reclaiming who I am. Leonard stiffened. The confidence that had radiated from him just moments ago started to bleed away. Reclaiming. Good luck with that, he said, trying to maintain an air of authority. But you will, I interrupted, the fierceness in my voice unyielding. I am ready to speak to the board about your management style and how it has created a toxic environment, not just for me, but for countless others. I have witnesses willing to testify. He paused, a flash of panic crossing his face. You wouldn't dare, he exclaimed. It's career suicide. Looking him straight in the eye, I leaned back and crossed my arms. I would dare, Leonard, and I am prepared for the consequences as long as it means dismantling the toxic fortress you've built over the years. He stared back at me with an intensity I had never seen in him before, and I could feel the tension in the air crackling. It was almost electric. I took a deep breath, knowing I had thrown the first real punch in our long-standing battle. I could see the wheels turning in his head, doubt creeping into his eyes. You think you can upend everything I have built. You think they will choose you over me, he said, his voice strained. But now there was a hint of desperation. I felt a surge of satisfaction course through me. It was a taste of victory I never knew I craved. Why not? You orchestrated this whole charade yourself. I have the chance to be more than just a disgruntled employee. I can be a voice for those too scared to speak up. You've sown discord amongst your employees, and now that discontent is going to grow, I replied, my tone unwavering. He sneered. You think the board will listen to the ramblings of one abandoned employee? You have no idea how business works. I think you have underestimated my resolve and the collective voice that sits behind me. It's not just me anymore. It's a movement that is gaining momentum, I shot back. And I will work tirelessly to ensure your empire comes crumbling down. It's time truth prevails over your facade. A heavy silence hung in the air as the truth of my words settled. For the very first time since stepping into his office, I saw fear flash across his face. You are going to regret this moment, Clara, he ground out. Regret. This is the moment I feel the most freedom I have in years, I replied, smiling slightly as I turned to Jenna. Let's go. I stood up from the chair, anchored in my newfound power, and headed toward the door. What's this? You are leaving, Leonard exclaimed, his once commanding tone now laced with defensiveness. Yes, I said, my back still turned to him. You have built your walls high, but I will find a way to breach them. You may think you have won, but you are merely prolonging the inevitable. As we stepped out of his office, I felt the weight of the encounter start to lift, the fear and anxiety transforming into a fierce determination that propelled me forward. Jenna followed close behind, her eyes wide with astonishment and pride. Clara, that was, wow, you were incredible in there, she said, her voice a rapid whisper. I just had to let the fire out, I replied, my heart still racing. The adrenaline coursed through my veins, and I couldn't help but smile at the sense of liberation that filled me. I feel like I just stepped into a new chapter. As we made our way back down to the lobby, I realized that this confrontation was not the end. It was merely the turning point in my story. I would not be silent anymore. Leonard Kingston's reign of terror would not go unchallenged. My journey of revenge was just beginning, and with each step I took, I felt a growing sense of purpose. The room felt too small, like the walls were inching in to suffocate me. My heart thudded in my chest like a prisoner beating against bars. I stood in the flickering light of a single bare bulb, the scent of musty carpet and old wallpaper clinging to the air like a heavy fog. Just outside, the storm raged on, rain splattering against the windows, mingling with the thunder that rumbled like an angry beast. I had been preparing for this moment for weeks, yet standing here, facing the truth, the fear began to churn in my stomach. I should have done it by now, I thought. I should have just ended this, but I couldn't. Not yet. Part of me relished the anticipation, the thrill of outsmarting him. My lips curled into a tight smile as I recalled the way I had lured him to this very spot, my childhood home, the empty house filled with echoes of laughter and heartache. It was the perfect trap. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to find some comfort in my own embrace. My mind raced, rolling over every plan, every plot twist I had concocted. He wouldn't see this coming. Clara Hastings, I whispered to myself, you are the storm. You are not afraid. A sudden noise broke my concentration, the sound of shuffling on the old wooden porch. My breath caught in my throat as I glanced at the clock on the wall. Timing had always been my strength. I had gone over this countless times. He's here, I thought, my pulse quickening. I moved to the window, peering out through the rain-soaked glass, straining to catch a glimpse of his silhouette. And there he was, Daniel Reed. He was tall, with an aura of cockiness that seemed to stretch for miles. And yet, there was something so infuriatingly charming about him. He was dressed in a dark jacket, water dripping off the brim of his hat, but his face shone with that same smug confidence I had come to loathe. What a fool, I thought. He doesn't realize this is his downfall. I could almost hear the thunder echoing the turmoil in my soul as I darted back from the window. Focus, Clara, I commanded myself. I could feel the familiar bitterness rising within me, the memories flooding in, memories of trust shattered, friendships twisted into lies. I had allowed this man to slip through my fingers once. It wasn't going to happen again. The door creaked open, startling me as he stepped inside and kicked off his rain-soaked shoes. Clara, he called, his voice smooth, almost playful. I thought I saw a light on. Daniel, I responded, forcing my hands to stay steady at my sides. My voice came out with a practiced calm. Thanks for coming. He stepped fully into the room, the shadows molding around him as the storm continued its furious assault outside. We need to talk, he said. There was a hint of genuine concern in his eyes, and it struck me for a moment, making my heart flutter against my will. But I pushed that aside. He had taken too much from me. Yes, we do, I replied, tilting my chin defiantly. But not the way you think. What do you mean? He furrowed his brows, the playfulness draining from his expression, replaced by confusion. I took a step forward, and he mirrored my movement, uncertainty dancing in the air between us. You think this is just a casual chat about the past, don't you? I challenged, my voice rising slightly. You think I am offering you an olive branch? His eyes widened slightly. I just want to clear the air. I thought we could come to some kind of understanding. Understanding, I scoffed, crossing my arms defensively. Do you even know what that means anymore? Do you understand what you did to me? His face hardened, and in that moment I felt something crack in the air, something palpable. Clara, I'm sorry for how things ended. It wasn't just me. We were both part of that mess. Mess. The bitter laugh escaped me before I could stop it. You call it a mess. No, Daniel. It was a betrayal. You shattered our friendship, turned it into a game for your own amusement. I was nothing but a pawn to you. He squared his shoulders, his jaw tightening. You think it was easy for me. I was dealing with my own demons, Clara. But at what cost? I stepped closer, my chest rising and falling with every breath I took. You played with my emotions, and it didn't matter to you. His expression softened for a moment, confusion clashing with guilt. I never meant to hurt you. Stop, I demanded, holding up a hand. Save the apologies for someone who believes them. I know you better than that. Then what is this really about? Why bring me here? He asked, frustration lacing his voice. I took a deep breath, the moment stretching out in front of us like the distance between the earth and the sky. You think you can just walk away from what happened. It doesn't work like that, Daniel. You have to pay for what you did. He stared at me, confusion clouding his features as he took a step back. I don't understand. What do you want from me? You'll see. I pushed past him, needing space, needing to organize my thoughts, my plans, and something darker that flickered like a candle at the back of my mind. The room still felt small, but the weight of it crushed me less than before. You always wanted a game, right? Well, I'm offering you one. There isn't going to be a game, he replied, voice low, eyes narrowing. This isn't some twisted fantasy. You think I want fantasy, I retorted, feeling my voice rise as my emotions swirled inside me like a tornado. I want clarity. I want revenge. And you aren't going to walk away unscathed. Clara, please, stop, I said sharply. You don't get to control my narrative anymore. You don't get to dictate how this ends. Lightning struck outside, illuminating the room for a brief moment, casting long shadows that darted across the walls. I could see the struggle in his eyes, fear mixed with something else. Maybe it was regret. Maybe it was acceptance. You're serious, he said slowly. I always have been, I stated firmly, staring him down. He turned away, running a hand through his wet hair, and I watched as guilt seeped into his demeanor. You really want to drag all of this back up? No, I wanted to scream. I wanted to let the raw pain flow out of me, to show him the aftermath of his choices. This isn't about dragging anything back, Daniel. This is about justice. That's all I ever wanted. And what kind of justice comes from revenge? He asked softly, almost pitifully. The kind that lets the one betrayed climb back into the light. The kind that stitches up the wounds earned during a battle. He shook his head vigorously, disbelief written all over his face. You're playing with fire, Clara. Then let it burn, I replied, stepping closer. It's about time someone lit the match. I could see him wrestling with his thoughts, the conflict waging behind his eyes. Did he understand the depth of his actions? Did he realize the hurt he had caused, both directly and indirectly? You know what's cruelty, Daniel? I pressed, my voice lowering, pretending none of this ever happened, that we can just sweep it under the rug and move on like some pathetic cliche. Maybe it's time to move on, he shot back defensively, arms crossed in a shielded gesture. Move on. You think that's an option for me after everything? I laughed humorlessly. You don't understand the scars you have left, but I do. I live with them every day. Clara, he began, but I cut him off again. No, don't stop me now. I will not let you slip away this time. I refuse to let you escape justice. What do you want? He asked, his frustration boiling over into desperation. I want you to see what you have done, I said slowly, as if stringing together pieces of a complex puzzle. You will not leave this house until you understand the destruction you have caused. And if I refuse, his challenge hung thick in the air. Then I will make you, I replied quietly, determination coursing through me like a current of electricity. He opened his mouth to retort, but then shook his head slowly, as if he was weighing choices I had not yet forced upon him. I could almost see the gears turning, battling between denial and acceptance. "Clara," he finally said, his voice low, "please don't do this." "Do what?" "Bring you to the truth." I stepped closer, our eyes locking in a fierce battle of wills. "You no longer wield the power to hurt me. I have reclaimed that strength, and believe me, I will expose you for the coward you are." "Coward?" His brows furrowed deeply in confusion mingled with hurt. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I never wanted to ruin your life." "Then you should have thought about your actions," I responded, undeterred. "You crossed a line, Daniel. I want to show you exactly how that feels." "Clara, please," he said again, softer this time, almost pleading. "You keep asking for mercy when it is you who deserves none." The silence hung heavy between us, cracked by the rolling thunder outside. I could see emotions swirling in his eyes, trapped like a wounded creature, struggling for breath. I would not give him the solace of escape, not this time. "This ends now," I declared with finality, taking yet another step closer. "You will stay until you confront what you have done to me and to so many others." "Clara, it is not a discussion." I breathed, feeling the storm writhing inside me. "You will face yourself, even if it is the last thing I do." Finally, I saw something shift behind his eyes, the small crack of a realization, perhaps. Did he finally get it? Did he finally understand the chain of events he had set in motion? The world had become so dark since that day, the day he had betrayed everything we stood for. As thunder struck again with ferocity, a flash of lightning illuminated the room, momentarily casting both of our shadows against the wall as if we were characters in a bleak fairy tale. Then there was silence. For a moment, I thought the very air froze, and time itself held its breath as he looked at me with something akin to fear. "Clara," he reiterated softly, "please don't do this." But I had made my choice. My heart hammered in my chest, each pulse echoing with the resolve I had built. There would be no escaping this confrontation. He would face the storm I had become, and through it, I would finally be set free. "I'm not backing down." The words slipped from my mouth, steady and unwavering. And as we stood there, locked in turbulent tension, the skies outside roared, as if echoing the turmoil inside my heart. Let the storm begin, I thought, ready to unleash everything I had kept bottled inside.